pen pal. Joining us now, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin.
I'm sorry. That was the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time.
That's our president, y'all. Go
Dear
America.
Why not Dear Ms. Japan?
Well, talk about it. Well. That's another story. Let's start where Alicia left off, not the president. But the tariffs and whatnot. And now we are also learning about this 50% tariff potentially on Brazil. I guess my first point is he did promise 90 deals in 90 days. I don't even think we've gotten the 2 deals or the 1.5 because what we have are frameworks. Handshakes and with no pieces of paper. And then when it comes to Brazil, he is literally I don't understand the economic policy because Brazil, we get a lot from Brazil. I mean, everything from beans to our morning routines, okay? The minerals that come from Brazil, they help power our cars, our energy, and yes, the morning. I know what I couldn't do without my coffee. How is this helpful to the American people? Because at the end of the day, Americans are going to be paying this tariff because the tariff is a tax, and either the American companies are going to pay it, the small businesses, or the American consumers. But another country is not paying that tax.
Yeah, well, as Alicia said, this is Trump's economy now. And he ran on lowering costs for people. That was the issue last year. And now every action he's taking appears to be raising costs for families, whether that's food at the grocery store. I talk to my farmers and my manufacturers and my small businesses every day, and they talk about the cost of the uncertainty and the chaos because of Trump's tariffs. It's a trade war, and they've been through a trade war with Donald Trump in his first presidency. They know what that was like. This is worse. My farmers get inputs from Canada and from other countries, and that brings the cost of production up, and their margins are razor thin to begin with. Some of the manufacturers I represent have facilities in multiple countries. Sometimes they can see multiple tariffs if components have to go back and forth and assembly happens in one place, et cetera. And consumers, our constituents, are going to see higher prices at the grocery store, at the gas pump, their energy bills, their housing bills, and because of the big ugly bill, and I hope we'll talk about that too, healthcare costs are going to go up dramatically. Many are going to lose their healthcare, but for the rest of us, when people lose healthcare and show up in emergency rooms, our costs go up if we have private insurance.
Senator, the amusing part aside, just as a side eye to the president on this, I don't know how I can help disabuse him of this idea, but a letter is not a deal. As a former corporate lawyer, I can tell you I sent out a lot of letters and I had a whole lot more deal work to do after I sent that letter out. And that goes to the heart of the problem we have here. You have an administration led by an individual who does not fundamentally understand how our economy works in the macro sense, how it's connected to other economies globally, and how in a particular way, as negotiated over many years with the advice and consent of the Senate and on many occasions, working with our economic partners like the European Union, like folks in Australia and Asia. How does the Senate, in your estimation, see itself repositioning in the face of an administration that is, through his letters, tearing up the economy in so many ways? Are there safeguards that, if you're looking at beyond the 26 elections, if the Senate turns in the Democrats' favor, for example, the House, for example, what are some of the roadblocks or efforts that can be made to help keep this economy on the wheels, on the lanes at least, that the Biden administration had put it on over the course of his 4 years?
Well, first of all, let's just, in the context of tariffs, there's a bipartisan appetite to rein in this president. They saw the chaos that his first round of across-the-board tariffs created in the stock market and for farmers and small businesses and manufacturers. And we had a vote on the floor where we repealed or we addressed the emergency declaration that underpinned the Canadian tariffs. We got to do a lot more of that. And in the context of the other things that have been going through Congress, we've got to give our Republican colleagues a little bit more courage to stand up to this man's policies, but also his tendencies towards acting unilaterally without worrying about the advice and consent of Congress. I also want to just say, from my own perspective, I'm not against tariffs. I think that the targeted use of tariffs to go after trade cheats,
tools.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they have to be one of many tools in a trade toolbox.
Right. Oh, you mean a strategy.
A strategy, absolutely. And we've got to get away from this race to the bottom and have a worker-centric trade policy in this country. And this president isn't the person to do it right now.
Let's talk about the budget bill and what that has looked like from a negotiation standpoint. Your colleague, also from Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, said yesterday that he thinks he's going to get a second bite of the apple on Medicaid cuts. One, is this how legislating works? Two, what happens to state budgets if he actually is successful and these federal refunds to states no longer are part of the deal?
Yeah, so my senior senator expressed an appetite for a second and maybe even a third reconciliation bill. The president just signed this big, ugly bill into law within, just the last few days. Is it not enough to kick 17 million people off their health insurance?
Not for Ron Johnson, apparently.
Is it not enough to take food stamps away from 3 million people? Is it not enough to add $3.5 trillion to the debt? My senior colleague is a deficit hawk, he says, but yet voted for that. And whoopsie-daisy, he's figured out that this wasn't such a deficit hawk-like vote to take in approving that bill.
And what he will say in the reporting is, I didn't want to be cut out of the process, which tells you a lot about the process itself.
It does. But the idea that then we want to come back and cut even more deeply, this is not the way to go about legislating.
It just makes me wonder, can the American people talk about the economy, can they handle it? They mean GDP, the stock market and whatnot, but I'm wondering if the American people can handle all of this. I'm thinking about, put on the screen, these are the items most impacted by the tariffs. And I'm talking about coffee, chocolate, olive oil, rice, alcohol, fruits, nuts, cheese, clothing, shoes, books, toys, cars, appliances, there it is. All of these things coupled with the deep, deep Medicaid cuts people aren't waiting. In my home state of Nebraska, there's already a rural hospital that is closed, and they've cited the federal dollars that they cannot count on because of the bill. People are really going to be deep in the hole on this, and I'm just wondering, can the American people take much more?
Well, we need to be truth tellers about the implications of Trump's actions and the Republicans' actions in voting for this big, ugly bill and many other actions that they are planning on taking. We are going to remind people the consequences. They will lie, and we need to be the truth tellers. And we need to make sure that the public is crystal clear about why their grocery bill isn't going down, but is in fact going up. Why their energy bill isn't going down, but is in fact going up. Why small businesses and farmers are having more input costs and their margins are getting thinner and thinner, and some are going out of business. We need to be truth tellers, and then the public needs to hold them to account.
I want to shift gears a little bit, staying again in the global space. You have a contingent of leaders from Africa, from West Africa, in the White House today to talk with the president about our relations with a number of these countries. And what struck me was not just the fact that the president has killed USAID and the resources that it provided a lot of these countries, but also it seemed sort of tone deaf to me. sort of mindless of the fact that a former Republican president put in place one of the most important programs to touch the African continent in a generation. The president's emergency plan for AIDS, PEPFAR, which, approximately 39.9 million people globally living with HIV have benefited from. 30.7 million globally receive treatment. 83 million people overall have been touched by that, and a vast majority of them on the African continent. How can we, in the face of all of this, and with the leadership of the Senate, reimagine those types of programs for the next generation of Africans? Yes, economic development is important, but as we've talked at this table, if you don't have good health, so much for your business.
That's right.
Because you can't show up to do the work every day because you're sick.
Right.
So how
that's domestically true as well as internationally.
Yes, exactly. And that's really what I wanted to sort of put those two together, because we're in a crisis here where we have the highest elevation of measles contracted in this country today than we've had in a generation. Thank you, Secretary RFK Jr. And Mr. President. So when you're looking at this effort to destabilize us economically as well as our health, what are you hearing inside the chamber about the other side of when all this comes to an end in counting 3 years?
Yeah. So I do believe that there's a bipartisan willingness to reconstitute our international health efforts. PEPFAR was a wildly popular program at its inception. Some doubted it would be effective.
Right.
It was wildly successful in terms of bringing down the rates of new HIV infection, care for moms and making sure that HIV wasn't transmitted to their babies. The success has been phenomenal, and to have it pulled away overnight is, first of all, cruel and has disastrous impacts. But it's also about soft power. Mm-hmm. It's also about leading in this world. That's a vacuum that's not going to be, well, maybe China will fill it in.
Yeah.
Maybe others will try to fill it in. Right. But we have not only we've damaged our reputation so significantly by those actions. But I do, as I said before, there's bipartisan support for PEPFAR and some of the other health programs, and even some of the nutrition programs, because our farmers, by the way, benefit from the nutrition programs that when we send food abroad and commodities abroad, our farmers benefit. I do believe we will be able to rebuild it, but there's going to be a lot of harm
in the
meantime.
Yeah. Appreciate you. Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Next.